A good Erev Shabbos. And a good Chodesh Adar. And this week's Parsha is also Parshas Terumah. It's a tremendously packed thing. Somebody sent me a message today. I feel like either people only started noticing things recently, or these things have not happened so often. But somebody sent me a message today. It's the first time in 30 years that we have the type of aliyah that we have this Shabbos. Make sense? Shabbos, HaChodesh, Shabbos, it's a Chodesh, it's Parshas Terumah, and it's also Parshas Terumah. I don't know. Okay, go look into it. Apparently it's a very rare thing. I obviously too young to have been around the last time this happened. But I'm switching. I used to always go the other way. I used to always go, I was born in like 1853. But then everybody started to believe me. At the point when you all started to believe me, I'm switching back the other way. So now I'm very, very young. Be'ez Hashem, it should be a beautiful month of Chodesh Adar. And as you can see, to all the people who are watching out there, all the 3 people who watch the shmooze out and there in shmooze land, that we all had a nice drink before the shmooze. And it'll be something good and special. Amen. It was all alone. This week's parsha is Parshas Terumah. It's also, as I said, Parshas Terumah. I want to share just a quick point. It's something that I find my father, Zakheim really, really would have appreciated this Devar Torah. When my father gave tzedakah, he often gave it along with a yiratzon that he invented on his own, which I might have mentioned before. He said a yiratzon, we should always be from the givers and never from the takers. You give tzedakah out, you don't know where the other guy is holding in his life. You're trying to help someone out. You don't know how many needs this person really has. This week, I got a phone call from one of our Chashuva alumni, and he was calling to tell me that he was not available to learn that night. Why not? Because, and whether this was a good excuse or a bad excuse, but why not? Because there was a certain person who was getting married, and unfortunately, they did not have family members to come to that chasana. So guys, alumni from our yeshiva, went to that chasana in order to make it a geschmack, a vibrant event. Now, I assure you, you should be thinking about that. Yiratzon, we should be from the givers, never from the takers in that one. Imagine chas v'shalom, a person being by a chasana like that. I remember I have a friend, he was from way out of town. He comes from, on both sides of his family, pretty much Gerim on both sides. So he has no cousins. And not only that, as if to even make it even worse, he's from way out of town. His wife that he was getting married to was way out of town, but they decided to make the wedding neither of their locations. They made it in Lakewood, because that was central to wherever they were. It wasn't at all, but they decided that was central. So there was no family there. We, his friends, or his family there, by that wedding. And we made sure to make it as geschmack as we could. And I think, excluding my own wedding, that was probably the only wedding I was by from the very beginning till the very end. But to be able to give that over to somebody else, yiratzon, we should be from the givers and never from the takers. That's what my father would say. And it's a very important thing. We have a wonderful chesed club, a chesed group, to be able to do things. And you should always have that in mind, that I don't ever want to be on the other side of this. But there is a secret in this week's parsha that sort of contradicts it, but only slightly. The pasuk started this week's parsha, the pasuk in the beginning of this week's parsha, Perek Chaf Hey, pasuk Beis. The pasuk says, Daber el bnei Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people. Hashem commanded the Jewish people to donate all the things that were necessary for the Mishkan. Gold and silver, all the things, all the threads and materials that would be necessary, and the jewelry that was necessary for the Mishkan. Hashem told the Jewish people to donate it. But, we have somebody here who's fluent in Hebrew. Ariel, how do you say to give in Hebrew? Yeah, latet. For the rest of us, it's loseis. Yeah, nesina. To give. It means to give, right? So if the pasuk is saying that Hashem demands that we give Him all of these things in Lashon Kodesh, it would say, V'yitnu li, and they should give to me all the donations, the Terumah, which is the name of this parasha, they should give me Truma. V'yitnu li. But it doesn't say that. Instead, very famously, the pasuk says in this parasha, V'yikchu li. They should take it for me. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to give me a donation. If I would go up to a person, chas v'shalom, and I'm collecting for something, let's say I'm collecting on behalf of Or Shlomo because we could really use the money. But let's say I was doing that. And I was going and I was knocking. I knocked on someone's door. I say to the person, we have this senior trip. It costs $77,000. We have this. We have our 11th graders are going on a trip. It's $150,000, and in 12 minutes they raised $149,000 of it. Okay, fine. But let's say I'm knocking on someone's door. And I ask them for a donation. Do I say, take for me a donation? No, I say, gimme. No, isn't that what I say? Gimme. Somebody came over to me yesterday. They said, gimme money. Give me money. That's what the guy said to me. But in a nicer way, of course. But you don't say, take for me. So there are pshatim and explanations. But there's such a magnificent idea that I saw from the great tzaddik, the mashgiach of Torah V'das, Zecher Tzadik L'Vracha, or Moshe Wolfson. He said, and it's really based on an alshech, what he says is that when you give it to Hashem, of course you're giving, but you should feel like you're getting. When you give, it should be such a geschmack, a joy, that you get to give, that you also feel like you're getting from giving. It's an amazing idea. And that's why it says, V'yikchu li truma, I should take for me truma when I'm giving it to you. When you give tzedakah to somebody, do you give it like, oh my, yeah, I'll find it for you. Okay, fine. Here it is. Take the money. Do you do that? Yeah. Oh, look. Do you do that? Or do you get such a kick out of it? I'm getting so much out of this that when the guy finally leaves your house, if somebody's collecting money, or the guy who finally leaves the shul, you tell him, thank you. Thank you for coming to my house. You've made my day. And we have a whole month that we've been speaking. I think this is the longest of any of the topics we worked on was Hakaras HaTov, a real good Gishmaka month of Shavat to talk about Hakaras HaTov. And every Rebbe was really talking about different parts of it. To be able to say thank you. What does a thank you really mean? How to show your appreciation. How to recognize the good. But when somebody gives you the opportunity, you've given me the opportunity to give you. So I just, Zakheim L'Vracha, I want to correct something, almost. But I'm sure my father felt the same way. That Yiratzon, we should always be from the givers and never from the takers, has a little bit of a parenthetical statement to it. It has a parenthesis that says, but deep down I'm taking too. Because when I give you, I'm getting so much out of that. Isn't it a beautiful idea? It's a beautiful idea. And that's what we learn from this week's parasha. In fact, there's a pasuk that we say many, many times, Ki lekach toiv nosati lochem. What does that mean? Nosati lochem. I real once again, what does that mean? Nosati, I have given. Not with a samach. Nosati, with a saf. Nosati lachem, I have given to you. But it says that Hashem gave us the Torah. Do you know what it was? Hashem gave us the Torah. Lekach toiv. Hashem gave us a taking? Which one is it? Did Hashem give to us? Or did Hashem take something from us? Lekach, a taking. Nosati lachem, I have given you. Which one is it? So he explains that Hashem has given us something. Hashem has given us such a thing. But he gets such a geschmack from it. The thing that he has given us, Hashem gets so much out of it. And we get so much out of it. It's a giving that there's taking involved. I get to take back from someone, from something else, to be able to appreciate what you've given me. This week's parsha is also Parshas Shkalim. Parshas Shkalim, which also talks about donations. To be able to donate to the Mishkan, to Beis HaMikdash every single year, we would donate a machzas hashekel. I say this, the first idea I said, is really Zecher Nishmas, my father, Zakheim L'Vracha, Shlomo Eliezer ben Rav Yaakov. But I want to say, this one is Zecher Nishmas, my grandfather. Because my grandfather used to say something about Parshas Shkalim. Every single year he said this idea. The Medrash says that Moshe Rabbeinu had difficulty with specifically three mitzvahs. He had difficulty. He had difficulty in comprehending these mitzvahs in some way. The menorah is one of them. Kiddush HaChodesh is another. And the Machzah HaShekel. He had difficulty understanding it. Until Hashem said to him, I'm going to show you exactly what the Machzah HaShekel is to be able to figure out this mitzvah. My grandfather would say, in a little bit of a pshetala, he would say, what is it that Moshe Rabbeinu found so difficult? In the Machzah HaShekel, the Jewish people, you can go to Rabbi Milstein's bag of wonderful, amazing, incredible coins, and you can go see what the coins look like. I'm sure Moshe Rabbeinu could have gone to some sort of currency dealer, and he would have figured out, what does it look like? You can go to the Living Torah Museum for $30,000. He'll let you take his Machzah HaShekel. And he says also, if you get his Machzah HaShekel, you'll become a billionaire. Okay, fine. And you ask him, you have Machzah HaShekel? Are you a billionaire? And he says, yes, he is a billionaire. Okay, so you go with it, that's fine. But Machzah HaShekel, why did Moshe Rabbeinu, why was he so confused about having that Machzah HaShekel? Why was he so confused? So, says my grandfather, he says like this. He says, Machzah HaShekel is a half. It's a half. It's only a half of a shekel. Half of a shekel. Each individual yid is that half of a shekel. Every yid feels, I can't. There's so many things that I have to take care of. My avodas Hashem is so packed. When you learn the 650 mitzvahs through Milstein, or you go through the Rashi Prakim of all the Musar Sfarim, you go through clarity. There's such a tremendous avodah that Edelman lays out. And I'm not just talking about all the guidelines of the incentive trip, but there's such a tremendous amount of things that every yid has to do. How am I going to be able to do this? It's too much for me. Like the terrible refrain, the comment, the motto of early America, Shvertz is ana yid, it's so hard, it's hard. There's so many obligations. And there are a tremendous amount of answers. Of course, Stolz is ana yid, it's a geschmack to be it. And it's so empty out there, the whole world is so empty when they don't get to do the mitzvahs that we get to do. We jump in the streets in joy, and they jump off buildings in anger and sadness. Just this week, another person jumped off another building. Yeah? Just because I take this from Victor Miller, 2 famous Hollywood people this week killed themselves. Yeah, they killed themselves, but they won 3 Oscars. How could they kill themselves? Okay, no, it's because Stolz is on a yid and Shvertz is on a goy. Okay, no, it's very hard to be a guy. But how is it that a person is able to do it? There's so much for him to do on his own. My grandfather would say, that's why you have to look at yourself like a half a shekel. It is very, very hard to do it on your own. But if you look at yourself as only a half, if you look at yourself as ish esrei eyu yazar, that we're all going to help each other, and we do this together, then you can accomplish something magnificent. We had our 11th graders. I made a joke about it 2 years ago, about the incentive program. 2 years ago, I made a joke because I feel like they could have pushed. And then I saw 2 years ago they pushed themselves. And then when the years after that happened, it was too much for them. The classes, in Edelman's class, the past 2 years, as wonderful, as incredible as they are, and wonderful to me, and we have tons of nachas from them, they weren't up to it. And I sat together with Rabbi Edelman 2 months ago, maybe more than 2 months ago, and we went through this list. Should this be on it? Should this be on it? Should this be on it? This is good for them. And we made it. It's a thorough expectation. To this morning, I was sitting with Eli, and Eli was going through it, and he was checking. I was marveling, checking. He did this. He did that. He did this. It hasn't happened in a couple of years for a reason. Finally, we'll be able to have such a nachas. But each one of you on your own, I have to tell you the truth, each one of your own, we would not have been able to accomplish it. But if you view yourself as a machzas hashekel, yeah, 100%, you should. If you view yourself as a machzas hashekel, you view yourself as a half of a whole, it's not so hard anymore. I'm taking care of the other guy. And this really gets back to the first Devar Torah. The first Devar Torah when you realize what a geschmack you get out of helping somebody else accomplish, that you're just a half of the whole. The two of you do this together, magnificent things happen. You can have a Grand Canyon of accomplishments that a person can bring forth. Be'ezer Hashem, a person should use this week's parsha. It's a chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is a brand new time. I know people every month, Rosh Chodesh, they sit down, take a few minutes to themselves, and say to themselves, what am I going to work on in this month? Write a list. What am I going to work on? And this month, figure it out. We have Parshas Shkalim, where a half of a whole, like my grandfather Zakheim Levracha used to say, the Yikhuli Truma, a person is taking when he gives, and Be'ez Hashem, when you take that Shalom on Shabbos and you have all the beautiful Shabbos, you should have deliciousness and Zmiras and Simcha and all good things, Be'ez Hashem. Be'ez Hashem. Beautiful Shabbos.